Hello everyone, welcome to another comic review, this one being a manga specifically, one that I've seen in the comic shop for a long time and I was always kind of curious about it. So eventually I talked myself into getting it. This is Skeleton Knight in Another World, and as you can guess by the marketing of the title, yes, this is one of those manga that takes a character and puts them in another world. Typically a fantasy world, based off of a video game or something of that nature. In this specific Otherworld manga, this guy apparently fell asleep playing his fantasy RPG game and woke up to find himself in the world as his character. Now he can use all the spells as his character, but also, because he was using an alternative skin, he is now a skeleton, so there's a bit of humor behind it. I picked this up assuming that it would be probably an action comedy or maybe a casual fantasy comedy. By the time I finished it, I had no idea what it was. So let me walk you through this manga so you know exactly what to expect and exactly what I did not expect. I'm reading this, right? I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna be a funny comedy, and it opens up with a rape scene. All of you writers out there who think that you're being edgy because you put a rape scene in, you're doing it wrong. You know, to some extent, I get it. You're like, I want people to understand this is for adults. I need to make it edgy. I need to put something in there that's going to provoke an emotion. But really, it's just cheap. We know that you put the rape scene in there in order to provoke a feeling. It's like jump scares in horror movies. We know that's in there to scare us, but it's just a cheap way of scaring us. So of course Skeleton Knight saves them, and then we jump into the past to see how it came to that one scene. And oddly enough, we never actually see him in our world. We never actually see him playing the game in the normal world, so we have no idea what kind of character this guy actually is. It's really bizarre. I'm not a huge fan of that. I'd rather see a transition from him being in our world to being in this new one than just bam, he's in the new world. You don't even know what this guy looked like. You don't know what kind of person he was. And the way that he reacts to suddenly waking up in the game with his skeleton skin on, it's very, very casual. He barely reacts to it. He barely cares. He's like, well, who cares if this is a game or if this is reality? I still need money, so he goes to get money. Throughout the rest of the book, he's basically just role-playing. He's playing this character. I guess it reminds me a little bit of Overlord, but there's no real transition to him getting into that role-playing. It feels a little bit rushed. Now, one of the things that kind of attracted me to this manga in the first place is the fact that having skeleton skin on kind of puts him at a disadvantage in this other world, and I do kind of like the idea behind this genre of manga and anime where they get put in another world. That's not to say that I've seen a lot of it or that I'm a huge Otherworld buff, but I'm a fan of fantasy settings, so it's fun to see someone from our world suddenly get put in a fantasy setting. And one of the things that I also enjoy is when they're put at a disadvantage. Like, it's not super easy for them, and one of the disadvantages that they of course put on this guy is the fact that he has the skeleton skin on, so if he removes his helmet, people are going to be freaked out by the fact that he is a walking, talking skeleton. One of the biggest problems I have with this first volume is that's never a problem for him. He never has to remove his helmet throughout this entire volume. It barely even comes up. Now, I can only assume that later down the line in this series it would come into play, but the fact that it's just barely brought up in the first volume when your whole title is basically just like shoving it in my face like, yes, this is the selling point, it's kind of disappointing for a first reader. So of course it starts off edgy with the rape scene, then it starts off more casual, more comedy-like, and for the entire mid-section, it feels like it's going in a very casual direction. Like, he's doing some quests, but he's not doing any, like, super major quests. He's doing things like helping a little girl pick flowers, you know? It's nothing super extreme. And as far as beating monsters and beating bandits, he can do it all very, very easily. His magic is extremely powerful, and he doesn't really have to struggle that much. On the way, he befriends this little fox creature, apparently some kind of spirit animal, but you don't really get any feeling of significance from that until it's brought up later on. And when it's brought up later on, it's kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb writing, I think. So the very basic idea is, how is he supposed to gain anyone's trust when he has to keep his helmet on, right? That seems fair. But the reason why he keeps on gaining trust is because he befriended this fox. This random fox. They're like, okay, I'll trust you because you befriended a spirit animal. They try to explain it like, oh, well, spirit creatures are really, really difficult for humans to befriend because they're just very picky about who they make their friends with. So you have to be a good guy because you tamed this animal. But if you actually go back, the fox was being a little bit mean to him at first, but then he healed the fox, and that's it. Fox started being nice to him because it was healed. That's it. You know, if the idea is animals are so pure that if they choose you as their masters, then you must be a really good person, that's a really bad argument. I mean, Hitler had a dog. That doesn't mean he was a good person. Bad people can have pets and be nice to their pets. That doesn't mean they're good. Just because he healed this fox, that doesn't mean he's good. And if you want to make some argument like, oh, well, the spirit animal saw into his spirit and saw good things, well then, I guess he didn't have to heal the spirit animal. The way that they make it seem in that scene, it just screams shallow. He heals the fox, instant friends. That's the only way he proved himself to the spirit animal. So after all this casualness, can you guess that this guy is the villain? So the basic idea is elves are being captured and used as slaves, probably sex slaves. I don't really understand the capturing elves things in here. I mean, they put a collar on them so that they can't use their magic, but you could have just captured humans, and then you didn't have to worry about them using magic at all. But anyway, so that's the basic plot of this world. There are evil humans capturing elves and gotta save all the elves. So he meets this battle elf girl who wants to go free all the elves, and he's like, okay, I'll help. And then it just kind of ends there. Now, did I hate this book? No, but I can't really recommend it. Mainly because I don't know what it's trying to be. Are you trying to be a comedy? Are you trying to be edgy? Are you trying to be casual? It feels like this first volume went in so many different directions, and I don't know where the rest of the series will actually go. For the most part, I think the first volume was actually pretty boring. The majority of the time spent was focusing on more casual fantasy. And casual fantasy can be good, but it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting an action comedy. All the ideas are there. All the ideas are fine behind this. I like the idea of this random gamer guy being in another world in a skeleton body and having to deal with that as a handicap. I think it would fit a lot better in a full-blown action comedy rather than being indecisive of what genre you actually want this series to be. And if this was more decisive, if this was more straightforward, yes, this is a comedy, or yes, this is action, or yes, this is edgy Lord McEdge, then I would feel a lot more confident recommending this to people because I would know what kind of people would actually enjoy this. This is a very weird mix. Maybe it becomes more clear as the series goes on, but for a first issue, I'm not a huge fan. The main character seems too casual and just kind of moved along with the story. He's not trying to look for a way out of the world. He's not thinking that this is just a dream or anything like that. And I don't really like casual characters who just move along with the story and have no reaction to anything happening around them. It's really boring to me. And like I said, you know, most of this is casual, so I'm gonna give it a meh. It's not completely unenjoyable that I would give it a thumbs down, but it's very meh. So if you've read Skeleton Knight in Another World, be sure to comment down below what you personally thought of this. If you've read further ahead, you know, tell me what direction it goes in. Does it go in comedy or edge, action, adventure, casual? And what do you think of other issues? What do you think of the characters? What do you think of the premise? Let me know all of that down below in the comments section. Remember to like the video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Program restart.